This video is going to be a film study look at Tavius Robinson. This one's honestly kind of overdue in terms of when my target was to get it finished. Robinson had what I consider to be almost a near breakout 2024 season. Now, the statistics don't necessarily back that up 3.5 sacks, 12 quarterback hits, but him and Malik Harrison were brought out as kind of this run stopping tandem. And Robinson really by the end of the season I thought was equally good as Harrison at setting the edge against the run to his side, and just has an incredible motor for a guy who's 6'6", 264, 265 pounds. He's just pure dominance against tight ends in the run game. I'll show you some film. He's the best six technique that the Ravens have, meaning when he's lined up head up against a tight end. Recently, Chuck Smith said it best that Tavius Robinson is a centerpiece to what the Ravens defense is going to do in 2025, and I completely agree. He's got the physicality, the length, the makeup in terms of his mentality and the way he plays the game, and he handles his business against tackles as well. I thought when the Ravens deployed him and Harrison together, they were just a different pairing. Incredibly effective against the run. Like I said, Robinson only generated 3.5 sacks. I think he had another one that was called back for a penalty that I'll show you during the course of this video. I thought he made huge improvements on his rookie season. First of all, in terms of production, he did get a lot more snaps, 330 or 335 as a rookie to almost 490 in 2024. Still, there was also a huge jump in impact, and I think you could see it on the film. That really stood out to me, the range that he has. And I'll try to illustrate that during the course of this video. He was able to control not just his area and make tackles, but also get out in space and control or corral quarterbacks when they tried to get outside. This first play that we'll show is a 3rd and 1 against the Bills on the road in the AFC divisional round loss. It's a brutally physical manner in which Tavius Robinson finishes this play, and there's 6 or 8 of these throughout the course of the season. Josh Allen is a huge quarterback. He's a load to try to bring down. Obviously, he can make some people miss out in space. This is a complete mismatch from a physicality standpoint. Tavius Robinson really slams him pretty hard. This is the kind of play that, if it occurs early in a game, you as an offensive coordinator and a head coach as well, especially at the NFL level, say, hey, I don't want to run the read option against this guy again and put Josh at risk like that. And when you get the end zone angle, you'll see the angle that Robinson takes. He steps down to really take away the give to the running back. In this case, it's Ty Johnson. Sometimes on these 3rd and short situations, you just want to tell the quarterback, give the football, make that guy make the tackle from behind, meaning Tavius Robinson. And even if he does make the tackle, we're still going to get the 1 yard that we need. I feel like at the NFL level and even major high level college football, that's the right move to make at times. The Bills are trying to hide it here by switching the running back late. So they're trying to not let you know or obfuscate who is going to be the read man. In this case, it's Tavius Robinson. Like I said, same play from the end zone angle. Just check out the angle that he takes. And for his size, the feet, the ability to change direction, and then also, in this case, settle himself, and then just totally envelop or swarm Allen and take him down. Like I said, complete mismatch in terms of physicality, strength, and size, and the ferocity that Robinson plays with, I think is going to kind of show up on film throughout this video. Here's another run concept from that same loss to the Bills in the AFC divisional round. In fact, this is another option situation. Tavius Robinson on the left-hand side of our screen, right-hand side for the Ravens defense. It's a diamond option, and you do kind of get our view is kind of obstructed here by the goalpost and also the camera. There may, in fact, be a face mask here. Josh Allen's pretty quick to complain about it. But what I like about this is you see this differential in the way the Ravens are playing it. On the previous one that I showed you, Tavius Robinson stepped down to take away the running back, and then he veered back to take the quarterback, almost like he knew that the option play was coming. In this case, since he's got the strong safety or nickel defender, Kyle Hamilton lined up outside of him, Robinson, knows I'm going to go and take the running back out, force a keep read by the quarterback. Really, this should have been a keep read if Josh Allen's reading it. He's clearly not, if you ask me. In fact, some of Josh Allen's option steps are pretty inconsistent. Like I said, there may or may not have been a face mask here, but in any case, totally envelops Cook again. One of the things about Robinson that I think is stands out from watching the film, especially for me in the last 3 or 4 days, is he's a finisher. When he's around the football, he's a guy that finishes the play and often does so in a violent fashion. He's also got a really great punch and strike. What I mean by that is when he's at the point of attack. I'll show you a couple of plays that kind of illustrate it here. Um, he's extremely productive and accurate with his strike to the point. So when you had him and Harrison on the field on opposite sides of the defensive formation, really that created a huge problems for the opposing team's offense. Right, like where will they feel confident in running the football? A lot of times quarterbacks will have a play called, like a concept, outside zone, and then the quarterback, have to pick the side. It's kind of an old option concept or an option way of doing things. Like, where's the one technique or where's the three technique? And then by game plan, let's run to a particular side. Well, when the Ravens had Robinson and Harrison on the field together, especially later in 2024, you just had no real good options to get any horizontal movement on either one of them. Now, the Eagles aren't going for horizontal movement here. The Ravens' home loss to Philadelphia later on in the 2024 season. Robinson spot shadow down here at the bottom side of the screen. Kind of this insert concept. So the Eagles are bringing in one of the run blocking wide receiver, tight end hybrid guys. I don't pretend to know his name, um, just for reasons of not being super familiar with the Eagles roster, especially down the roster. But in any case, you're getting kind of this base block by the tight end on Robinson, and then this receiver going in motion is going to insert underneath of that tight end's block, this the C gap, if you will, to go get the strong safety. In this case, it's Ardarius Washington. First of all, great job by Ardarius on the fill, right? But check out the strike and then the way he's able to bend or bow the tight end back, he being Tavius Robinson. I'll give you the end zone angle in a moment. You really got, a 3-on-3 there, meaning the tight end and then the receiver slash tight end who went in motion, whatever positional designation he has, and then the give to Saquon Barkley, clearly designed to come downhill right here. So 3-on-3, Chris Board ends up being the unblocked player. Humphrey, not needed at all to stop this play, direct point of attack is inside the C gap. Same play from the end zone angle. Like I said, Robinson is spot shadowed here on the left hand side of the screen. And so slowed it down so you can see the strike that Robinson provides the tight end. Kind of high, but lands first, stands him up, and then bows him back with that long arm. 6'6", 264 pounds. Great arm length. Just got a fantastic frame. His ability, or his willingness, I should say, to get to the football, really, he's just not to be denied. In fact, on at least a lot of the run snaps that I saw later on in the season, somewhat of an anomalous play here. This one is against Tristan Wirfs for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Week 7. It's a jet sweep concept. I actually think that Tavius Robinson kind of loses track of the football here for a moment. But look, the Wirfs knows the play's going to his side. I'm not sure what he's trying. It almost looks like he's trying a snatch down, he being Wirfs. It kind of works on maybe Urban in the middle there. But regardless of whether or not Robinson loses the football for a moment, and he does not finish the tackle, he is, in fact, getting some vertical movement on Wirfs back in the backfield. You can see where the ball was snapped. Ball is directly on the 45-yard line. By the time the running back realizes, oh shit, I'm in trouble here, Tristan Wirfs' heels are almost back on the 49. Just a really nice illustration, if you ask me. A couple of really nice illustrations, I should say, of Tavius Robinson's punch and his ability to kind of win immediately as soon as the ball was snapped. One thing to mention here is just the excitement that we as Ravens fans should have for the pairings that Zach Orr can put out there on defense, an outside linebacker, edge defender. It's really remarkable, right? You got Van Noy and Owe both registered 10 plus sacks last year. The Ravens also drafted Mike Green, a super talented guy from a pass rush standpoint. I think Green is also underrated as a run defender. I think the Ravens can preserve Van Noy for the bigger moments because he's the best playmaker on the roster, at least from recent film, 2023 and 2024 in Baltimore. You got a combined 22 and a half sacks, or maybe it's 21 and a half. In any case, Robinson does a ton of things really well against the run. Van Noy does everything well, whether it's pass rush, against the run, or dropping out into coverage. Van Noy had 630 snaps last year. Personally, I'd like to see that number come down, even as much in as like the 560 to 580 range, maybe 600 tops. You're looking at about 35 snaps a game. Combination of Owe, Robinson, who I think has proven himself to be quite effective, Green, and then one or both of Ojabo and Adisa Isaac really means that we could kind of hold on to Van Noy's numbers strategically and save him for big spots in a particular game or later on in the regular season in the playoffs. Another aspect to Tavius Robinson's game that I want to focus on is the fact that he's somewhat impervious to contact. At 6'6", 260, 265, just plays through contact well, almost like a bulldozer. It's just and one thing that always strikes me, and I try to talk about, I forget a couple of players this year's, how many guys he makes contact with. He doesn't really touch this tight end at all. Tries to collision the fullback, sprawls or almost semi sprawls against the running back, cutting him, and then able to bounce back up like a spring and still on his second step thereafter get a quarterback hit on Bo Nix. I think this is a truly remarkable play that displays his athleticism and his ability, his willingness, first of all, and ability to play through contact at the NFL level, violent contact, in fact. I may have the play order of these two snaps mixed up, so my apologies if so, but this is the same sequence. Goal line situation where Denver ends up scoring on a fourth down pass play, I think, to Sutton. But in any case, here is Tavius Robinson spot shadowed in a six technique. That's head up on the tight end. Okay, so nose to nose, middle of your face mask, lined up on the middle of the face mask of the tight end. Of course, a 9 technique would be outside shade of the tight end. Don't ask me to explain the numbering system. There's a bunch of different theories on it, but a 6 technique, excuse me, a 7 technique would be inside. So you've got 7 on the inside technique, 9 on the outside, and then 6 from a head up position. Like I said, don't ask me to explain that one to you or break it down necessarily because I don't have a good explanation. But in any case, first of all, great read by Chris Board, stepping downhill as the force player, lined up in this somewhat irregular position for him, just a smart guy. But Robinson is overwhelming the tight end here. I always look at the heels of the blocker and the heels of the defender. Where do the heels start at the beginning of a play? And where do they end at a certain point during the snap? If you were to timestamp it or pause it, Tavius Robinson's heels obviously started almost a yard into the end zone, and then thankfully he's being tackled by Tavius Robinson. When I say he, I mean Tavius Robinson's being tackled by Roquan Smith. That is, my apologies for that. But Robinson's heels end up, beyond the 1 yard line, whereas the tight end kind of gets bowed back. There's a lot of force there, a lot of collision. Tavius Robinson, if you ask me, is at the forefront of it. Besides being the best 6 technique or guy lined up head up on the tight end on this roster, one thing Tavius Robinson does exceedingly well is take on blockers. Fully committed, great pad level oftentimes, but even when his pad level is a little bit high, because let's be honest, he is 6'6" or maybe 6'5". I showed this play in a Twitter thread a couple of days ago, and the thing that stands out to me is, first of all, this is Pat Fryermuth. Is he a dominant blocker? No, but he's a really good football player. And I wouldn't expect to see him get absolutely blown up like this, by anybody. For Tavius Robinson to be the guy who did this on this particular snap, kind of stands out for all the other talent that's on the Ravens roster. And I certainly don't mean to say that fans or myself as an analyst or someone who's attempting to be an analyst has forgotten about Tavius Robinson, but it was a positive development to hear Chuck Smith describe him in that manner as as a centerpiece of this defense, and just kind of give you a little bit of insight into what the Ravens coaching staff might actually think of Tavius Robinson. And that's like I said into the lead in. I wholeheartedly agree. This guy plays with immense physical gifts, and his effort pursuit matches those physical gifts. Will he ever be a 10, 12, 13 sack guy in a given season? He doesn't look like he has that smooth nature, that instinctive type of pass rush ability. No, I can't say that. What I can say is this is a hell of a good football player out on the edge, and we should feel extremely blessed with the outside linebacker edge group that the front office has put together, at least for 2025. I kind of alluded to his range earlier. I want to show three plays that kind of illustrate that skill. And I don't mean just his frame and length in the area that he lines up in. I mean his ability to cover a swath of the field that is wider than we may expect, given his 265 pound frame, packed onto a 6'6" body. His willingness to mix it up with tight ends, offensive line, and be a force against the run. I think that's pretty obvious. I described him as a finisher, whether it's the quarterback in the pocket or when he's kind of gotten out in space. The thing that struck me as somewhat surprising in watching the film, like I said recently, is his ability to get outside the numbers, from the bottom of the numbers to the sideline, and have an impact there as well. Another snap used from that Bills playoff game, which pretty assured that that means that my video is going to be demonetized here. So if you've ever given any thought to either just donating something during one of the videos or joining my Patreon, if you appreciate my work, I would appreciate it if you would consider that option, because much of the 2024 stuff at this point, really doesn't return me any, it doesn't provide any return on my investment of time in terms of revenue on YouTube. But Robinson is spot shadowed here, excuse me, and then on the snap, a little hitch screen out to Shakir. I mean, the Bills did everything they could to get him the football in our two games against him, and just he didn't have a ton of impact except for the one long pass play that Josh Allen had in the home win Week 4 over Buffalo. So Robinson's kind of hidden here behind the left tackle Dawkins, but you can see his quick recognition to turn and then go get the football. It ends up being a 4-yard gain, but very similar to the way I described the option play, the first option play with Josh Allen. Shakir paid the price for being only a 4-yard gain. Somewhat of a boot concept. It's a little bit of a reverse pivot for a boot, so anomalous in some ways. Jaden Daniels trying to get out to the edge. How flat Tavius Robinson is, and the reality is, if it's an even foot race, of course Jaden Daniels is going to beat him to the sideline. We've got him out leveraged. So Tavius Robinson's inside foot is probably 3 yards outside of Jaden Daniels. So he's got him totally out leveraged, and in this case is able to make contact with Daniels. That's the type of effort and closing speed that Tavius Robinson has. Like I said, if it's a pure foot race and they're starting even, Daniels probably wins it. But it's a credit it speaks to the discipline that Robinson has, and a credit to him for not letting the moment be too big for him against some of the premier athletes that we face, like Josh Allen, Jaden Daniels, and then Jalen Hurts here. Somewhat similar, except this one's down into the boundary and from a shotgun alignment. So it's 12 personnel. It'll be a read option. So the tight ends kind of split, and Tavius Robinson again steps down. Hurts keeps it, has to bow back, and he tries to juke a little bit. Robinson really doesn't go for it. He's got really, I think, improved feet compared to 2023. I'm comfortable describing him in some ways this year as rugged, whereas 2023, I'm not sure, how you could have described it in an accurate manner. There were times where, he just didn't look as able to maintain his athleticism and keep his balance when someone was trying to juke him, like you see here. This is an end zone angle of the same play. So those two tight ends are going to split. The inside tight end goes to get board. The outside tight end goes to get the corner. In this case, Wiggins. It's a read option play by Hurts. You can see the difference in his stance. I mean, just much better technique, stance, body positioning than Josh Allen demonstrates on some of the read option plays. But in any case, Tavius once again stays square, doesn't go for the fake too much, and then he's able to prevent Hurts from having a throwing lane and obviously keep him from getting to the sideline and turning it into a positive situation. Along with everything that I've mentioned so far, range, physical gifts, physicality, commitment to his job, and showing up with 100% kick-ass attitude is playing through contact. And that part of his game and other football players' game, it doesn't come through in testing, right? But you can certainly see it on film, and it shows up whether he's trying to get out in space or dealing with things in the pocket. I think that Tavius Robinson's the real deal, and I think he could explode in 2025. That may not mean an 8 to 10 sack season. He may be more akin to a guy like a Pernell McPhee, one of my favorite Ravens of all time, to be honest with you, who would kind of max out as like a 6.5 to 7.5 sack guy over the course of a season. I think Robinson might have a better ability to redirect than McPhee and kind of stay in attack mode even while moving horizontally. And if you know me and what I think of McPhee, you understand that's a huge compliment, like I said. At times when running backs or tight ends are trying to deal with him, he just, really turns them into speed bumps. This is a 3rd and 1 on the road against the Bengals early in the 2024 season. The Bengals, are doing everything they can do to hide Jamar Chase and get him out into the flats. I'm not sure why Joe Burrow doesn't try to throw this football. But in any case, check out Tavius Robinson. So he slams into the tight end here, absolutely knocks him off balance. And then thereafter, the running back tries to go down low, and very similar to one of the Broncos plays, Tavius is able to redirect or bounce off of it, tight end, running back, and then sack the quarterback. Those types of plays always impress me far more than, probably many others. We used to track, and I've explained this a couple of times before, we used to track how many players you made contact with during the course of a play. Talking about for my defensive players. So we would look at how many times are you touching, in this case, a tight end, collisioning a running back, or being collisioned but playing through it, and then finishing the play off with a sack or a tackle. The types of guys that could do these things never came off the field for me because that contact balance or ability to play through contact, be impervious to it, in fact, in some ways, is just something that you can't deny. His pass rush skills, I would describe them as rugged, kind of how I put it earlier. I do think this is a kind of an interesting coverage, something that the Ravens did. I'd like to see them do more of when we get these kind of compressed formations. In this case, Harrison is jamming the tight end up, completely decimating his route, his ability to get into a route. For Tavius, it's not a clean win. You do get a lot of pass rep um, looks on stuff like this where you've got contact made and no real move being run necessarily. I do think that he was often put in the game to kind of read and react instead of just attack. And in 2025, I think he has earned or could possibly earn the right to be on the field in some of these pass rush situations where many people have called for or projected that it would be an interior rush position. I'm not sure who he gets off the field when we're talking about having Matabike, Travis Jones on the field predominantly. And when we do kick a guy inside, oftentimes it was a Kyle Van Noy. I think that he's clearly not the smoothest looking pass rusher, but the difference between 2023 film to last year was tremendous. Some of the things to note, right? His physicality stands out to me, even on a Ravens team that has some guys that are absolutely committed to playing defense the right way and putting their hands on you. He reminds me of the guys you don't want to play against on a basketball court. And if you know, you know, and if you don't, my apologies. It's You can probably think of someone from your neighborhood or your city or town that played great defense against bigs. Also played and could handle shooting guards or point guards out on the perimeter. Someone that just gave everybody problems no matter what. That was 6'4", 6'5", maybe 6'6" guy that could guard anyone. That's what he reminded me of. And there's probably a comparison that could be improved upon here. But because I'm old and I'm going to use an NBA comparison, it reminds me of a Dennis Rodman, a guy who could guard centers one night and compete with them and give them pause or be more than a speed bump. And then the next night or on a switch, handle a point guard out on the perimeter. Just really make everybody's life miserable such that you didn't want the ball when he was on the court at all. I do think that depth that we have could possibly circumvent opportunities for Robinson. Basically, Owe, Van Noy, and probably Mike Green as well. Superior pass rush moves from a technical standpoint. I did think Tavius got a little quicker with his bull rush. There's clearly a time and a place for that style of rush, depending on what we want from the other side, outside linebacker. I wonder about Tavius being teamed up with Mike Green on some of these run plays and play action situations, giving one or both of them an opportunity to get there. The pairing or duo of him and Harrison will be difficult to replace, and uh, I think that will be one of the things the Ravens defensive staff and Zach Orr have got to look at is who can we get on the field along with Tavius when we have an idea that the other team wants to run the football and we want to take that option away from them. Guys like Ojabo and Adisa Isaac, round out, like I said, what is a very deep group. I just don't know what those guys are comparatively. I actually found 3 or 4 really good snaps or reps of Ojabo from last year while researching this video in the course of the last 3, 4, or 5 days. The final point that I'll make here is Robinson's age is actually a little bit elevated compared to some of the other guys. Him and Owe are the same age. Kyle Van Noy's age doesn't matter, right? It really doesn't matter at this point. He's either going to give the Ravens one more really good season or he's not. It's going to be difficult to after 2000 unless he gives us another 11 or 12 sacks, right? I mean, at some point, if Van Noy just keeps producing like this, you keep bringing him back. Other guys were productive to their age 33, 34, and 35 season. Maybe he's just going to be another one of them. But Tavius is 26. So is Owe, in fact. Mike Green is only 21. Ojabo's 25. Adisa Isaac is 23. Now, out of that group, I believe Van Noy, Owe, and Ojabo all have contracts that expire after 2025. So there's a need to get Tavius on the field more. I think his film from 2024 warrants more snaps in 2025. The problem is we just drafted Mike Green, and Van Noy shows no signs of slowing down, and Owe has definitely become more consistent as a pass rusher. So where do those snaps come from? Well, Malik Harrison leaving is one possible explanation. What do you think is the right number of snaps for Tavius Robinson per game, averaged out over a 17-game season? I'm thinking it's somewhere at least in the 28 to 35 range. And I don't know mathematically how they get that done while incorporating Mike Green, who clearly has a very refined yet explosive set of pass rush moves. If you guys enjoy this video, please let me know in the comments section. First of all, I tried to pick plays to illustrate these aspects of his game that I noted and that maybe I was a little bit surprised by. Again, his range was the primary one that kind of surprised me there at all. Pretty much from a pass rush standpoint, I expected a certain look, and that's what was confirmed for me after watching the film over the course of 2 or 3 days. I appreciate you guys' time, man. If you think other Ravens fans would enjoy this film study look at Tavius Robinson, with albeit significant commentary included as well, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.